While this quarterback class is not nearly as top-heavy as last year's, their potential landing spots are still intriguing to think about. Which quarterback will be first off the board? Will a team take a chance on Jalen Milroe in the first round? Those are questions that I will answer in this edition of where every quarterback will land in the 2025 NFL Draft. In contrast with last year's version, I'm going to go over them in order of their consensus ranking, so I'm going to begin with Miami quarterback Cam Ward was debatably the best quarterback in college football last season, and his journey from one college offer to a different number one, the first overall pick, is fascinating. He's in the debate for that pick though, and any top QB needy team could take him. In my eyes, there is no chance that Cam Ward falls outside of the top 3. Obviously, the Titans at number 1 are the current favorites, since they are picking first overall. The organization clearly does not trust Will Levis with their franchise, and unless he makes some large improvements in the 2025 offseason, he pans out as the team's QB2 for this upcoming season. Then you have the Browns at second overall, who are likely without Deshaun Watson for the 2025 season. Bailey Zappi is a restricted free agent, Jameis Winston is an unrestricted free agent, and I doubt this team rolls forward with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. In return, their need for a quarterback is high once again. And then the Giants pick at third overall. Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, and Tim Boyle are all free agents in some capacity, so they actually don't currently have a quarterback on the roster. Would not shock me if the Giants gave DeVito a qualifying offer to bring him back, but he's obviously not the future of the franchise. So now we must wonder which of these top teams will end up taking Ward. I mean, it's fairly obvious here though. Given the consensus number 1 ranking, he goes to the team picking number 1 overall, Tennessee Titans. Next up is Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders, the consensus QB2 and number 2 prospect overall. He's kind of a polarizing prospect in a ranking sense, as most people either have him at QB1 or don't even think he's a first round pick. But I'm going by consensus in this video, so he's clearly the first rounder. But I will extend past the top 3 picks. You also have the Las Vegas Raiders at 6th overall, who still have Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew on contract for next season. I don't see them releasing or waiving either of them, but if one of these top 2 quarterbacks fall their way, I would be shocked if they didn't pick one. And the end of Aaron Rodgers' career is near, so this team could also pick a quarterback as well. If the Jets don't snag a quarterback within the first 2 rounds, which will likely be one of the top 3 QBs, I don't see them picking one at all. They got Jordan Travis in the 5th round last season. But I also don't see Sanders falling outside of the top 3 unless some sort of character issue unravels. Down to the Browns and Giants, who gets him? Well, I like the Browns taking Travis Hunter, so looks like New York gets their crack at Shedeur. The consensus QB3 is Alabama's Jalen Milroe, which brings a unique question. Will Levis was in a similar situation where he could have gone first round, but he could also easily slip into the second round. The difference in those situations though, there are more QB needy teams further down the line than there were in the 2023 draft. The Seattle Seahawks have the highest pick of these. Geno Smith is coming up on the final year of his contract, and the 34-year-old might not be worth another extension. Then the Pittsburgh Steelers lose both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields to free agency, meaning they have a quarterback on the way. It's unclear whether or not the Steelers will re-sign them, and if they do, which one they go for is also unclear. And the LA Rams are a sneaky quarterback team after Matthew Stafford recently said he would take time to think about his future with the Rams organization. If he leaves, that's an appealing spot. The highest I see Milroe going is 6th overall to Vegas in like a Daniel Jones-esque fashion. But I could also see him going as low as the 2nd or even 3rd round. But I do see him going in the 1st round, just seeing how things are trending. Which team is it? I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers for the sake of this video, who take Milroe at 21st overall. Moving on to these mid-round quarterbacks who likely won't be sought out as starters at least at the beginning of their career, but they could be starters further down the line. So this really brings in a ton of suitors for these guys. Beginning with Jaxson Dart out of Ole Miss, you got a later round pickup for the Browns, Raiders, Jets, Seahawks, and Rams, or even teams that could use a QB2 that could take Dart. Specifically, teams that could possibly put a fire under their starters' butt, including the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Chargers. When it relates to Dart, he would be a nice addition to a team that runs a good amount of RPOs and play-action plays. Especially coming off the bench, any short yardage plays with these attached would easily make Dart a successful backup. I'm going to make this brief, but I see the Rams taking Dart in the 3rd round, no matter if Stafford returns or not. He fits that offense very well, and it will make for a smooth transition to the NFL. Recently dropping to QB5 in this class is Texas prospect Quinn Ewers. I still see him being drafted higher than Dart, but the same teams do apply here. I see him going to a team with more of a solidified QB1 spot that could change in the close future. This emphasizes the QB2 jobs of the New York Jets, Seattle Seahawks, and maybe even the Indianapolis Colts. To me and to many others, Ewers still has developmental traits that, if developed properly, could contribute well as a starting quarterback. Another thing I want to point out is this helps his injury history, as making him a backup wouldn't put a ton of pressure on his body at the beginning of his career. He was a 3-year starter with Texas, and outside of one occurrence, the only time he would be sitting on the bench is when he was hurt. So Ewers being a backup to begin is absolutely crucial for his development as an NFL player. That's why I have him going to the Seattle Seahawks in the 3rd round. As with questions regarding Geno Smith after the 2025 season, there is an opportunity on the table for Ewers. The final quote-unquote Tier 2 quarterback, if that's what you want to call it, is a recent stock riser in Ohio State quarterback Will Howard. According to Mock Draft Database, he had a 7th round projection going into the college football playoff. Now he's a potential Day 2 selection. I was higher than consensus on Howard going into the playoff already, but the Day 2 hype is debatable. I personally think that he is on that brink of Day 2, so teams with compensatory picks at the end of the 3rd round are definitely available. This is where I bring up the Minnesota Vikings for the first time in this video, who will have a QB2 question to answer if Sam Darnold does not re-sign. Nick Mullins and Daniel Jones are also free agents, so at the moment Minnesota has just one quarterback on the roster. Another possibility is the Miami Dolphins, who I mentioned could put a fire on Tua Tagovailoa. QB2 has always been questionable for the team, as Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley haven't really been reliable options at the backup spot. Especially with Tua's injury history, having a reliable backup is key for this team's success. But I'm going to go a different direction here. Give me the Indianapolis Colts. Realistically, Anthony Richardson has one season left to prove in Indy. Howard provides a nice backup with developmental traits and could ultimately pan out as a safer option at the position. Sure, he's not nearly as mobile as Richardson, but he comes out as more accurate with better decisions. Indy gets Howard in the 4th round. Do not overreact to any of these Tier 3 placements, as the likelihood of these quarterbacks even starting in the NFL isn't great. Beginning with QB7, Oregon's Dillon Gabriel. If he was NFL sized, he would have a bigger chance, but instead he just pans out as a career backup. So really, any team that needs a QB2 that hasn't already picked one in this video has a shot here. The Vikings, Dolphins, and Chargers have all been previously mentioned, but the other teams that may seek a QB2 in this draft are the Cardinals, the Falcons, and the Buccaneers. Arizona currently has Clayton Tune, who they could let go of. The Falcons could possibly let go of Kirk Cousins, and Tampa Bay has Kyle Trask hitting free agency this offseason. Again, whichever team decides to pick these guys up are getting their backup for a few years, maybe even more if they decide to extend them. In the case of Dillon Gabriel, I have the Vikings taking him in the 5th round, assuming Darnold leaves. You have just one quarterback if you lose Darnold, and I see them drafting a QB and potentially adding a veteran as well. Then we get Notre Dame quarterback Riley Leonard, who is the consensus QB 8 in this class. Leonard is an interesting quarterback in this class, as he clearly has the mobility but maybe not the arm talent to succeed at the next level. I question if he's worth a higher day 3 draft pick like consensus says, but I also question if his potential and upside are enough to do that. Nonetheless, he's a backup at the next level, and the LA Chargers need a backup here. I know they love Easton Stick, and Herbert is a reliable guy, but I think that drafting a new backup is not a bad idea. They also had Taylor Heineke this season, and re-signing him is an option as well. But because of the upside Leonard has, I think he should go somewhere as a backup. As a result, I have the LA Chargers selecting him in the 6th round. This class's QB9 is Syracuse's Kyle McCord. He's an intriguing prospect after basically getting booted out of Ohio State, but reviving himself at Syracuse. There is one option I really like for McCord, but there are other options on the table. The Cardinals, Falcons, and Bucks are options here for McCord to serve as the team's trusty backup. But I have the Miami Dolphins going for him. I already mentioned their situation a little earlier, but let me restructure that a little bit. Yes, taking a QB2 in the draft could put a fire under Tua Tagovailoa's butt, and Tua's injury history makes it essential to have that backup option. But I also think McCord complements Tua's play style pretty well. He is a gunslinger who is not afraid to throw passes into tight gaps. He's not a deep thrower by any means, but he's willing to take chances, and I see that following him to the NFL. Since Miami doesn't have a 6th round pick, and I don't see McCord falling to the 7th, Miami takes him in the 5th round here. And finally, the 10th best QB in this class, according to consensus, is Indiana's Kurtis Rourke. He has put himself on the map and raised his stock, but after learning about his ACL injury, his stock is falling back down. That's why I can 100% see him fall out of the draft and sign somewhere as an undrafted free agent. But for this video, I have him going to the Tampa Bay Bucks with their mid-7th round pick. Obviously, as a 7th rounder, his roster spot is not guaranteed, but the Bucks have an open QB2 spot that Rourke could possibly take advantage of. So with Rourke going to Tampa Bay, here's a quick reminder of where I have all 10 quarterbacks mentioned in this video going. And scene. Wait, are you not subscribed yet? Well, do it now. I release content like this all the time and would really appreciate your support. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and I will see you all next time.